All right. Well, Jim, welcome to the Automation Solution Podcast. I'm really excited that you're here. Appreciate you taking the time. It's honestly a true honor with someone of your experience, 36 years in automation, 25 in robotics, going through, what we're experiencing today with the pandemic, and then all the conversation about the need for future automation. I don't think I could have a better guest if the pick of the litter. You're the one. So thank you,
Craig.
Thank
you, Craig. I'm excited to do this today, and I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and your podcast followers. So I'm excited about it.
Well, that's good. And just so you know, the typical listener, it's usually C-level management, production engineering, kind of maintenance managers, and in typical industries that we see are food, beverage, glass, paper, plastics, building materials are kind of the makeup of the listeners. We do have, people outside of that, but that's kind of, it's what perfect is. It's in line with what you've done in your career. And I think that it'll be great for everybody. So
excellent.
Now before we get into some questions, I assume you've been working at home like everybody else for quite some time.
Yeah, working at home. FANUC has been open and it's a essential business and compliance, certainly in compliance with the Michigan State regulations and that. But we started returning to the office last week and kind of coming in waves. Came back Tuesday of this week, first day back. So it's good to be back in the office. And I should note here I am in an enclosed room with the only person being in the room. So thusly I can not have my mask.
That's good. So where are you? It looks like you've got, can you show us the room a little bit?
So, I think this actually ties in a little bit into our discussion today. So this is one of our training classrooms. Okay. And normally this classroom would be full really every week of the year conducting a training class. But, obviously, times have changed right now and we pivoted and we are now conducting virtual training. Instructor-led virtual training. So and actually on the other side of the wall, there's a class going on right now. So we've had online training, web-based training, but this is, as soon as the pandemic started happening and we realized we weren't going to be able to conduct in-person classes, we started conducting virtual training, instructor-led virtual training. That's been very popular and very successful. And quite honestly, I think will be something that will continue on, once we're beyond this. There's customers are always looking for multiple options on how to get trained. So this classroom here, again, LR200s surrounding the room. You can't see the whole room, but this would normally be full of students. And so I'm using it as a place where I could go, take my mask off and do this video podcast.
That's good. Now for the listeners, what I'll do, Jim, is I'll get the information from you and I'll post it on the podcast description. Yep. If folks want to know where they can get the virtual training, sign up, learn more about it. Let's do that because I think the new normal is going to be more of what you guys are doing now, which I think opens a door to people that for whatever reason struggled to get out of the office and travel. This is going to be, I think it's a big win for everybody. So I'll circle back when we're done and I'll get that information from you.
Okay.
So let me just start with a question that I have been hearing and reading probably like every publication in our industry. Heck, the President of the United States talks about this, and it's about, manufacturing coming back to the U.S., things that have been outsourced because, pre-pandemic, now that we're going through all this crisis and it's a real struggle for so many, several experts believe manufacturing will start to see some of that come back to the U.S. Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on that?
I agree.
That's good.
So why do I agree? Yeah, you're right. There's article after article. I mean, almost every day there's an article coming out on this topic. But if you look at the data, it appears that reshoring or nearshoring, which are same but a little bit different, really started happening in about 2014. Um, the data shows that it was more of a nearshoring trend and a little bit of reshoring, not necessarily, and not to, pick on China in this, but, when you're talking reshoring, you're typically talking about, manufacturing coming back from China. And there's been a lot of recent studies. One of the most recent ones I saw, 64% of manufacturers, CEOs said that they were going to be looking at bringing their manufacturing back to North America. And I think, as people go through this and organizations, go through this pandemic challenge, there's multiple factors that play into this. I think, one, through robotics and automation, you can produce in a cost competitive manner here in the U.S. and North America. Again, a lot of studies showing that. Even, Mark Cuban talked about this, 5-6 weeks ago, that through robotics and automation, manufacturing can be competitive here. But also too, it's, you look at this disruption, but this isn't the first disruption. The trade war started a disruption. This pandemic started another supply chain disruption. So, how many disruptions do companies go through before they really start to take a serious look at other options? And when you look at combining kind of the reshoring and nearshoring topic, it really is about the global drive to produce closer to your markets and closer to your customers. And, and again, some of the data shows that this trend really started, back in 2014, but, here in the last year and a half, has become much stronger. And I think, right now you're going to see coming out of this, a real strong push towards that. Right now, if you are having your products, produced, your supply chain is coming from overseas. I mean, if you're having production challenges, you can't go. Most people are not going to be wanting to step on a plane and fly to the other side of the world at this moment. And really, while we all hope for the best and the fastest recovery from the pandemic, there really is no prediction on when you're going to feel comfortable, getting on an airplane and traveling that type of distance. So so back to my, original answer, yes, yes, I believe, and as many people believe, this will take place. To what extent, remains to be seen. Ask me a couple of years from now, looking in the rearview mirror, how much happened. But, again, many of the studies that you see over the last few weeks, are showing, again, typically about 60% of CEOs are saying that this is something they're going to be strongly looking at.
Which is honestly terrific for our country. It's great
absolutely.
for jobs. It's great for a lot of things. So, I too believe that we'll see more of it, and it'll be easy in a year or so to look back and see if we were right or not. So we'll have to mark our calendars and have this conversation again here sometime next year.
Face.
Yeah, exactly. So let's kind of take that topic. So there's other companies. There's a lot of manufacturing companies in the U.S. today that are facing severe challenges within their business that have not had any automation at all. I'm always amazed. There's the majority of manufacturing plants probably don't have automation compared to the ones that do. And what type of challenges are you hearing these companies going through today? Right smack dab in the middle of this pandemic.
So again, you look at the data. The U.S. is, appears multiple countries down the list as far as number of robots for every 10,000 workers now.
Right.
There's many factors that play into that, which certainly don't have time in this to get into. But again, strictly looking at the data, number of robots per 10,000 manufacturing workers, where the U.S. is way down that list. So there is absolutely the opportunity there for a greater level of automation, and certainly, as I'm sure your discussions with customers, and you hear that as well. And
Right.
I think the challenges that people are facing right now is where to start for those who I will answer your question here, but I like to look at the extremes.
Right.
So one extreme, I would say, you look at FANUC's factories. We have robots making robots. Our factory where our control cabinets are produced. I mean, the last time I was there, I think there's 2 people that work in that facility. Sheet metal comes in one door, painted control cabinets go out the other door.
Right.
So high level of automation. The other extreme is what you and I see all the time are manufacturers that, or product producers in the food industry who have no automation. Everything's manual. So you look at those 2 extremes, which do you think are being more impacted by this pandemic? It's the ones that have a high density of people. So those companies are, certainly reaching out to us, and I'm sure to your organization as well.
Yeah.
I don't want to say panic, because that's not the right term, but help us quickly. How do we get automated quickly, so that we can, maybe their longer term plan was to automate more, to expand capacity. Certainly for many years, we've all heard the skilled labor challenge, the difficulty finding people. Okay, we're going to go through, a few months here where that may not be as much of a challenge, but that's going to return. And, so the challenge we're hearing from a lot of our customers is, how do we get this done quick? We're talking about data. I just saw an article here this morning from CNN that 75% of CEOs are predicting that this will be a V-shaped recovery and will be recovered in no more than a year, which is actually pretty quick given severity of the downturn. Again, it's projections, but these are, CEOs of organizations. So this is their view of how things are going to return. So now is the time that they're wanting to look at, how do I may have a challenge in staffing my facility right now. There's been multiple years of memory of not being able to find enough people. We have many examples where customers have tried to hire 90 people, 30 people apply for the job. So there's been a big drive for robotics and automation. This has actually certainly increased that interest. So, back to your original question, the challenge, the challenge we're hearing from the people who are at that one extreme of highly manual operation is, how do we help us? How do we get this done quick? How do we prepare now, use this time now, so that coming out of this, when business does start to recover, and let's say it is V-shaped in a year, which we're 3 months, 2 months, 3 months already into that year, almost a quarter into that. So, many people are looking at how to, getting this done now, getting this done quickly so that they can be properly positioned for the recovery.
Well, and a lot of that, Jim, just to touch on that. So the folks that we're talking about that, let's say, have little to no automation, the fears, fear, but concern that's driving some of this too is the health and safety of their staff. I mean, I'm sure you've been in the plants like I have, where there's a lot of repetitive tasks that can easily be automated, where you've got people standing shoulder to shoulder, 24 hours a day, large groups of people, let's say palletizing a box or packing product into a box, where it's high speed and they have to work close together. And those are the areas that, to me, are low-hanging fruit, just because there should be a pretty good return on that investment. And take those quality people and qualified people and try to put them in a more value-added position within the company, where they can be, more safe, where you can maybe have that social distancing in place.
Yeah,
That's
that is an excellent point that you bring up, and also one that we're hearing. You, you know, you can look at how do you automate and trying to become more efficient, but the challenge, this is really brought to light and focus on social distancing, and we have all been in factories, processing facilities where you really can't social distance the way
no,
they're set up and structured.
yeah,
It's yeah, it's just not possible without building isolator booths around people. And so I think that's the other challenge that our customers are looking at is,
yeah,
again, you know unknown length, the length of this pandemic, and when we'll be on the other side. I'm confident we will get to the other side at
right,
some point. Um, but getting there, I guess a recovery isn't a flip of a switch. It's a journey to that destination. How do you increase your production? How do you ramp back up?
right,
Dealing with social distancing, and there's many customers that both our organizations, both of us have been into, and notice the density before just walking through, before you even this was the pandemic was even a thought.
right,
But you saw the density of people, and you looked at that density of people from a perspective of, this is an opportunity to automate. Now it's being looked at, these companies need to come up with a solution to this density and social distancing in order to get back into volume production. And in some of these facilities, it's really challenging because they just can't completely relay out their processes. And also, they have four walls
yeah.
outside of the building that everything's contained within, and that as well is another big driver for the discussions that customers are coming forward with.
Well, let's talk about that, because that kind of leads into my next thought here. So let's put ourselves in the shoe of a CEO or an owner of a manufacturing company that has their four walls, has their space. It's a high density of workers for certain applications.
Yeah.
They know they need to automate. They want to automate. Where the heck should they begin, in your opinion?
Somebody, I was on a panel discussion a few weeks ago, and that question came up, and I gave the glib response to that: where to begin at the beginning. Just start, and call our organizations such as yourselves, the solution providers, and have come in, look at the operations. We can suggest, looking at the applications, both of us, both our organizations can suggest where to start, come up with concepts, come up with risk evaluation, help with ROI discussions. And, that for those organizations that are really at the beginning of that journey, if you will, that's where it needs to start. Have the experts come in and start to lay out not just the plan for the next quarter or 6 months, but also just looking at what the long-term objectives, where do they see their business going? Are you always making this every day forever? It's, I don't know if you notice the RōBEX pen.
Yeah, I do.
But, or are you making pens today and going to be making phones tomorrow, and
right.
You're going to need to make masks the next day. So that flexibility of what the long-term future for the organization is going to look like from the production perspective is really important. And that's what we all do, your organization, our organization, and others do, is to help kind of put a roadmap together so that
right.
every decision you make now, every investment you make now fits the longer term, bigger picture plan. And okay, so this week may be a little bit of a challenge to go out and visit some facilities. Certain states, have restrictions on visitors. Certainly, many and customers have restrictions on visitors. But what are we doing? We're webcasting. What's on
Yeah.
the back of this? FaceTime. I think we've all have used technology coming into this, but everyone I talk to, it's, you're on WebExes all day long. You're FaceTiming and absolutely walking through a facility with a customer with either, webcamming or FaceTiming to show the applications, to show what they look like, email files, email drawings, email layouts. So a lot of this, the initial stages of that planning can absolutely all be accomplished virtually at the moment.
I think I love your point. I want to make sure the listeners, paid close attention at the beginning, is to just start.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming. I get it. I mean, anytime you dive into something that's new and different, it's change, it's overwhelming, but you just got to start, right? Pick up the phone, call FANUC, just start.
Yeah, and for years we've heard, well, I don't know where to start. Well, starting the discussion is the point to start. It doesn't mean from that discussion you're going to be making an initial investment or placing a purchase order, but start to put a plan together and start to bring in the experts who can give you guidance, and quite honestly, maybe that organization's not a fit, and maybe they don't have good applications, but at least again that long-term vision, plan, an approach to it. We do that. Your organization does that. Every day.
Yeah, there's a lot, and let's talk about that. So most of the listeners may know this, some may not, but a company like FANUC, global leader, robotic manufacturing leader, obviously our brand of choice, and many others. The way that manufacture, absolutely. The way that this all happens is there's an integrator base that FANUC has established, several hundred qualified integrators that would be able to take that first phone call from a company that has an interest, talking through potential solutions, understanding current state. That's what we always do. What's current state? What's future state? What are the milestones we need to hit to accomplish? What's it look like? What's the investment? What's the risk tolerance? A lot of things that you go through. So there's the integrator base that FANUC's put together that's really helped, transform, many manufacturing facilities across this country and others. In your opinion, what are the important attributes that a customer that is new to automation should look for when talking with integrators and deciding who might be the best fit for to work with? Because that's also a tough decision.
Yeah, very good question. So a lot of aspects to that answer, and you're right. We have several hundred systems integrators, subject matter experts, and some who are generalists, who like your organization, Northwest Ohio. Some organizations may just focus on a small geography, and not that you folks do, but just using that as an example.
Sure.
But then also, that whole integration market has really migrated out to expertise in certain applications or certain industries. I've always used the example, we had a systems integrator for years that they did paver brick palletizing. They built paver brick production equipment, and they did paver brick palletizing. They knew paver bricks. They knew that industry. They knew all the nuances, the environment. That was them. Don't bring them into a case palletizing. Don't bring them into an arc welding or assembly application. So, what we have found over many years now, that the integrators have evolved into kind of really subject matter experts in industries and applications. So what we do is, when we're talking to customers, we look at their applications, we look at their industries, also find out what's important to them. Some of our customers want the application they do in Ohio to be done in Florida, to be done in Brazil, to be done in Germany, to be done in China, all by the same company. Okay, so that not every integrator is structured to do global support. In fact, many integrators aren't, and that's a business decision that they make. But what we try to do is understand what's the priority, what's important to them, in helping to make recommendations on systems integrators. But also what we find as well is the systems integrators are really good at knowing what they do and what they do well. You may be in a glass facility or at a facility doing a palletizing job, and they want to ask you about arc welding.
Right.
That may not be your core expertise. You may not have any expertise in that application. Again, not saying you don't, but just using this as an example.
We don't.
So what we find a lot is our integrator network, our integrator community, and we do a lot of things throughout the year to bring them together, that there's a tremendous amount of sharing back and forth across integrators, because again, a glass facility that you're in that's doing arc welding, I'm trying to think where that would be a case, but I'm sure somewhere there is.
Right.
That customer says, I want to look at this arc welding application. You may say, that's not us, but I know who to bring in. You either contact us at FANUC, we make a recommendation, or your organization has established relationships with with the integrator community, and you do business back and forth together, because that arc welding integrator may not have the expertise in a palletizing or a glass application, and and they may be partnering with you the other direction. So there's quite a bit of that takes place.
So looking for, if I'm a customer looking for an integrator that collaborates, across markets, is willing to share information, especially if if they don't specialize in that specific need, being willing, able, yes, willing to bring somebody else in to support the what's best for the customer. Sounds like that's a key attribute to a successful integrator.
That is one of many key attributes. Certainly experience in the application, creativity, thinking outside the box approach. Also, very, very important is understanding safety, understanding risk assessments, being trained by the RAA on how to conduct a risk assessment. Absolutely don't want to dismiss that. That is really, really important. So those are some of to me the key things to look at. And it's interesting sometimes in talking to customers. Again, I'll use this pen as an example. Sometimes we'll talk to customers and say, I make pens. I want somebody who is experienced in automation and robotics and pen production. Right. But there's sometimes other customers who say, no, I don't want somebody who does pens every day, because I want a new approach and a new way of thinking. And it's surprising the number of customers who state this, who say, I don't want somebody who's experienced in pens, because I don't want it done the same way it's always been done. I want to get new thoughts and new creativity to that. And awesome. Another thing I wanted to mention, this maybe ties back to the previous topic, but I think it's important to mention, especially in talking to you, Craig, in looking at some of the challenges manufacturers are having right now. Another challenge that may happen, we're not seeing it yet, but again, a lot of data is talking about this, is people may want to move forward with automation and robotics, but the cash flow may not allow it based on this return. So I know your organization is working on some things for alternative financing, creative approaches, and I personally believe that that's going to become a more important factor here in the next year. There are some organizations who are doing really well through this pandemic, just because of how they've been positioned or the products that they produce. but there's also going to be some and many who, this has really hurt their cash position. So they want to automate. They need to automate because of a labor shortage or difficulty finding people coming out of this, but they may not have the cash. So,
that's a good point.
Folks are working on, and I didn't. For those watching, listening, we didn't set this up as a plug. For Craig and RōBEX on that, but I think that's a very important factor to be considered. And again, coming out of this, I think you're going to see customers who want to move forward, but the cash position is going to limit that. So.
I think that just to tie into that, Jim, it's, whether it's an integrator like us or somebody else or even FANUC, is the willingness for people to think differently and outside of the box. We know that that's going to be a problem. It could be a challenge for several years. So we want to come up with something unique. And I think every company out there, no matter what business you're in, everyone should start thinking of, how are we going to help our customer base? What can we do that's different? What can we bring them that's valuable? So, and I know there's other terrific integrators such as Pearson, good friends of ours that are doing something similar. And so, no, I appreciate you mentioning it, but I think, that's available to everybody. It's a matter of, how much effort you want to put in and learn about it. And I think the more we structure alternative options for our customers, it's going to help that automation push actually happen. So I'm glad you mentioned that. We didn't talk about this, and it's a big topic every time we do company presentations or we meet people. They all want to know about collaborative robots. And I actually had Greg Buell from FANUC did a heck of a job on a podcast, 6-7 months ago, talking about just everything collaborative. We went into a lot of the detail. He's probably one of the smartest guys I know when it comes to understanding what collaborative is and isn't. But let's talk about how the collaborative robots might be able to be a part of this automation push inside of manufacturing because of the pandemic. FANUC has a great line ready already, and you have the CRX, I know, that was just added, that should be available here in Q3, Q4, if I remember correctly. But what do you think? If you take a step back and look at collaborative, what type of applications do you see maybe now that you might not have thought about prior to the COVID-19?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Craig. And in fact, I was listening to re-listening to Greg's talk he did with you from January, and it's like, wow, that was not that long ago, but wow, how
seems like a long time.
Since then, absolutely. And so a few things related to collaborative and how this ties in is you're usually not getting into challenging applications and with collaborative robots. Just kind of the nature of tremendous market opportunity for collaborative robots. I think manufacturing is seeing that, but you're not going to typically see difficult, challenging applications, complicated applications, large reach applications. Collaborative robots are, first meant to be working fenceless alongside a human. Absolutely, safety is number one. Every application absolutely requires a risk assessment.
Yes,
I can't overstate that enough, and the importance of safety in the application of these robots. But they tend to be quick to deploy, and quick to redeploy. If you look at some of the larger systems you folks have done, multi-robot, a lot of conveyance, pallet conveyor, in-feed conveyors, fencing, you're not easily going to pick that up and move that to another part of the facility to do a different task. Collaborative robots, based on how people are approaching them, kind of this pre-engineered, simple approach. What we've been seeing from our customers here through this pandemic as it relates to collaborative is, I need something now. I need something quick this week. I also don't need it to do anything real complicated. I need it to just do some pick and place applications, because and typically where we see this is manufacturers or the tier suppliers for PPE equipment, masks, the respirators, ventilators, everybody trying to do what they can to help. So collaborative robots can be a quick answer to that, to take care of some of the simple tasks. The other thing we're hearing from customers who already have the collaborative robots is, I'm making a part now for a supplier that goes into a ventilator. This production for me over there was side production 2-3 months ago. It's now my focus. I'm taking this collaborative robot that I already have doing another task, and I'm moving it over there. I think the reason you're seeing such an interest in this right now is quick and easy to deploy and quick and easy to redeploy.
Yes.
And those are the kind of the two key things that we're seeing kind of coming out of this pandemic, meaning the opportunities being created, not that we're necessarily coming out of the pandemic yet, but those trends over and above just the normal, growth of collaborative robot interest in applications.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And that's part of going back to your comment of just begin or just start. A good integrator is going to help you see where those opportunities might be. And it might not be a big yellow robot solution. It might be a small green one, or the new CRX with the white and the green stripes that could fit in somewhere and do the job. So I think that's good. So let me just, I want to recap, Jim, a few things before we wrap up, because I think it's important to hit on. So we started with, the question of, do we think U.S. manufacturing is going to come back to the States? It was, a big yes. And I think that you and I both agree there. A lot of people, experts in this industry would agree that will happen. So there's, number one, that's opportunity for all of us, but we have to be ready and understand how we can do that and be competitive. The current challenges we talked about that manufacturers are seeing that are not in automation is just that, oh my gosh, I've got this footprint, right? My factory, I have all these people, have no idea what to do. I know I need to automate it. Your comment was just to start. And I think calling FANUC, if anyone's listening that wants to know, call FANUC or go to the website. They will connect you with the appropriate integrator based on your need. I know FANUC does a great job with that. So I'll make sure I put that in the notes in the comments.
Yeah, and just to sorry to interrupt you there.
No, you're fine.
We've got engineers and account managers all across the country. Some of them focusing on different industries, different applications. We have regional offices all across the country, all across. I know this isn't just limited to the U.S. podcast here, but across Canada, across Mexico, South America. So we have people close to you.
Yes, that's great. So people, it's very easy. Go to the FANUC's website, contact them. They'll take good care of you. As you do that, attributes to look for integrators that are willing to share, collaborate with other integrators that are open to ideas. You'll get a feel. I mean, it depends on the type of business you're in. If you're progressive and you're looking for new ways, you're going to want to match that with an integrator that looks at business the same way. And I think people, as they have several conversations, Jim, I think they can kind of figure out where that fit would be, right? Yep. And then on the collaborative side, just don't forget about it. I mean, those opportunities are there. And I would agree that based on at least my experience, what I've seen is try to keep those simple. Don't try to complicate those and have these robots do too much, because at that point in time, to me, I think you're just asking for trouble. Keep them in simple applications that you could repurpose those individuals to do something more valuable.
And there's one more comment on that, on the keeping it simple. And I wouldn't state this as fact, but it's certainly a belief. And I think there's many applications out there that show that. it may not be best to try to have the robot do everything. You know,
Right.
sometimes maybe you look at it and have it do 80% and keep the other 20% manual, or do it another way. Because we see many applications that do follow kind of that 80-20 rule. That last 20% blows the scope and complexity, you know, way
Yes.
to a much higher level, and sometimes the cost as well. So again, and that's things that, you know, our people and our solution providers, you know, are experienced in looking at, and can let you know, hey, this portion of what you're talking about doing, it's just pretty easy. This
Yeah.
last aspect you want it to do, man, that's, you know, you're increasing cost, you're increasing risk, complexity, you know, and we absolutely see that. Sometimes people try to do everything, and maybe doing a little bit less, you can actually be a better approach, and be a more cost-effective approach, and
Yeah.
productive approach.
No, I'm glad you took a second to elaborate on that. So you know, great conversation. There is a huge urgency behind automating. I mean, I think everyone that's listening to this podcast, the reason they are because they feel it. They're challenging themselves, or they're being challenged by their own network and people they look up to. But there is help. You know, I think that there's help out there. There's hope that you'll be able to bridge the gap. Don't panic. You know, go about it the right way. Start with the first phone call, and a good integrator is going to walk you take baby steps and take you from point A all the way to, you know, point whatever Z when you're all said and done.
Yeah.
So, anything else, Jim, before we wrap up? I mean, it's been an awesome
Yeah,
conversation.
no, this has been great, Craig. I appreciate the opportunity, and certainly look forward to when we can have more discussions face to face.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
But
It'll be
certainly,
here soon.
yeah, no, it will be. You know, just certainly in closing, I want to wish you, all your colleagues at RōBEX, all your family, everyone listening, all your families, just safety and health. And you know, that's you know, while we've been talking about robots and automation through this whole discussion, you know, it you know, really is you know, the ultimate concern of the people,
Yes.
our colleagues, and you know, that everybody gets through this in a quick, safe, and healthy manner.
Yep, I echo those comments. So, thanks to you. Good luck to FANUC and all of your customers, and look forward to talking with you again soon.
All right, Craig, take care.
All right.
Everyone,
Thanks,
take care.
Jim. All right. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.